Change your mind, change your money, change your life. I am Coach Rob Lee Simmons, the host of this podcast, and let me be your tour guide to greatness. If I was doing any better, I would be you. Welcome to the Greatness Academy podcast. I am here with one of the people who I consider a legend because he is really one of the folks that I look up to, Dr. Rischer. He is an educator, an author, entrepreneur, the owner of Math is Money. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, man. So I really want to get hot and heavy into what it is that you do. So you spent over 20 years as an educator. How did you take what you knew as an educator and transition into your business, Math is Money?
Okay. Great question. Great question. You know, it really starts with COVID. We were in the COVID season and we had gone back to work. So I was in education up, I was at 20 years at that point, but I was an administrator. I was a middle school administrator and assistant principal. And I'll be honest, I was in the inner cities of Nashville, and as an assistant principal in the inner city, the intention is for us to be educational leaders.
Right.
But really, we're just police officers. Like the discipline is all we do. And I was getting to a point where I was just so frustrated and I was really becoming discouraged with education, and whether it was trying to move up to become a principal school leader. It was just tough. It was demanding because a lot of the time and energy was spent on discipline, bullying investigations, theft, bringing the dogs in for drugs. So at that time, we had a situation where we had a mini brawl. I call it a mini brawl, and it was pretty bad. And there was some decisions that I wanted to make that went against our school leader. And it put me in a position where it was like, either you're going to do this or you're going to get a consequence. And at that moment, I realized, okay, this is when you need to have that FU money, right? And so I called my financial advisor. I'm like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to leave. And he was like, yeah, you'll be good for this amount of time. I said, that's all I need. And so thankfully, I was in position where I had that FU money.
Yeah.
So I made some decisions and I said, you know what? I'm going to go back into the classroom where I can really impact the kids directly. So I go back into the classroom. I went through a couple of, trying situations at a couple of different campuses, but I ended up getting at one campus where I felt like, man, this is where I need to be. Couple of months later, that's when COVID hit. We had the shutdown. So during that time, the whole world is trying to learn, hey, how do we maneuver? We go back into school. We're in the hybrid, that's virtual and in person. And at this time, I'm really learning more about finances because a couple of years prior, I ended up meeting with my financial advisor and I was like, look, man, I need you to sit down with me. Let me know what I have. Now, at that time, I can't say I had a lot, but I know I have more than the average individual, right? Just based upon, I used to live in Arizona. I had money. I rolled it over to Tennessee. I work for the state, so there's money there. I've done some little, investing here and there.
Right.
And so I realized, hey, I have a portfolio, but we got to build it up. And so it was also about the age of 42 when I realized, I started questioning, am I living for retirement? And that scared me because at 42, you're thinking, man, I got to do this for another 20 years.
Right. It's a long time.
And mentally, I'm tired. Mentally, I'm drained. Like, you feel like you're living your purpose and you're walking your passion, but I just wasn't feeling it like the education anymore. particularly being an administrator. So as I'm learning more and I'm getting into the groove, one day I'm teaching and I would share with the kids about my stock, my the stocks I have on Robinhood and Webull. But one day I'm just teaching. I'm like, you know what? None of these standards are teaching our kids how to build wealth. And it
Absolutely.
just bothered me. It really, really, really bothered me. And so I go back, I look at all of the standards, elementary and middle school, nothing. And these are the common core standards.
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
absolutely nothing to teach our kids how to build wealth. So when you think about teaching a math standard, let's say ratio, we are comparing red marbles, yellow marbles, green marbles. What's the ratio?
Right.
How does that tell you? How does that teach you how to build wealth? You know, at what point do you actually use algebra on an everyday basis?
Right. Because that's the question everybody asks. Like, when people have their complaints about school and public schooling, I think one of the biggest question is, hey, calculus or algebra, when am I going to learn that? When am I planning on using that? Let's talk about that.
Yes. And so when I got into education in the year 2000, teaching math, um, I just couldn't believe that kids didn't know their multiplication facts, right?
Mm,
And this is a long time ago.
right.
So when that would happen, I would say, um, if you can't do math, how you gonna put money in your pocket? Like this is what I would say, like on the spot. Like,
Right.
how you gonna put money in your pocket? Well, and then I would say math is money. Like math is money. So this was like a mantra that I had back in the early 2000s, that at 2019, 2020, I said, you know what? That's going to be the name of my business. I want it to be math is money. And what I want to do is make a connection with the math standards and the aspects of making money, right? So when you have assets and liabilities, what math standard is that connected to? Well, positive and negative integers.
Mm, mm,
When you have, I love to use this example. When you have a fourplex, and I can ask my students, okay, you have a fourplex, you want to live in one unit, mortgage free. Can you create an algebraic expression that will allow you to know how much you should charge minimum? So now we're taking these opportunities with real estate, stocks, uh, budgeting, and we are applying the basic fundamental skills of mathematics. And so again, I have two principles. The left hand principle says all you have to do is master addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. The right hand principle says I just need you to be book smart, don't have to be the smartest, just know how to read a book and apply. Be street smart, I don't need you to be a gangster. I just need you to know how to move among the people and have common sense. If
love
you
it.
don't have the money, don't buy it. That's common sense.
That's it.
So these are just two principles that I use to push my curriculum.
Man, that's amazing. And so looking at your curriculum, it looks like you have um, really books of all ages. Like what would you consider your target audience?
My target audience is basically middle school kids, the age of 12, 13, up until 20 to 24. The reason why those are my target group is because I want them to have the foundational information to know that they can build wealth. I don't want them to have to live life for 20 years and then realize at the age of 38, dang, this is what I should have been doing at 18.
Right.
So it's just trying to plant the seed now so that they can position themselves. Okay, I'm gonna be a good student, but I also got the knowledge to know that when I turn 18, I need to start investing. That's why one of my books is called Graduation Money to Millions, because I want the students to know, let's say you get $500 graduation money. Take half of that and invest in something. Put it into a Roth, buy stocks, but start somewhere.
Somewhere. That's good.
Somewhere. And know that this game is about patience and long term. This isn't an overnight thing. And that's really the big lesson, because with social media, it can appear that people's success is instant. And the people that really win are the ones that understand this is a 20, 30, 40-year game that you are putting money aside and you just letting it work. That's the thing. You got to understand your money has a job. It is your employee. Let it work for you.
Yeah, that's like I watch a lot of social media. When I say a lot, I'm not like a teenager, but I have a couple of folks that I do watch. But like Mr. Beast is one of those folks that really put me on game, because when I start seeing the Mr. Beast chocolate bars and the burgers, and seeing that he was taking his money, his YouTube money that he was making, and he was starting to make it multiply and do things by himself. And then one day I was scrolling on what's that app you order? Uber
Uber
Eats.
Eats.
Yeah, I was scrolling on Uber Eats and I seen Mr. Beast burgers, and I was like, that's it. He figured out the game, right? And so graduation money to millionaire, that's on mathismoney.net/shop. I really think that was kind of genius, because a lot of times when students are transitioning from high school to college into adulthood, that's really when I think they, of course, like when you say starting in middle school, but that senior education is needed the best, because when they hit college that freshman year, and then they sitting there in front of all of those credit card tables, they need to have known something, because that's where that credit card debt starts at. They would have needed to have known something before they take a step onto that campus. So I think that is really a gem for the people and the kids that are really transitioning to that, man. So definitely mathismoney.net/shop. Get that. So you have another book, and it's for third graders and up. Making Money is All Mindset. Let's talk a little bit about that one.
Okay. Again, being that I work with middle school kids, I know the mindset. It's kind of like I have to be in with the crowd. There's that there are those years when you doubt, you're not sure if you can be successful. And what I try to teach is, like, it's all in the mind. If you want to be a millionaire, then you got to believe you are a millionaire. But it's broken down into 5 chapters or 5 mindsets. And one of the first mindset is helping a kid or a young kid understand you are an asset. Like, you are a walking business. And I'm saying that because we know, or at least I now know, that the school system is designed for us to become workers.
Period.
It is designed for us to transition from an 8 to 3 school schedule to a 9 to 5 employee.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I tell my kids, because I'm pretty sure you were told this, baby, go to school, get good grades, go to college,
And
get a good job.
Yep.
And I tell my kids, a good job does not build wealth. A good job only pays the bills.
Absolutely.
And let me repeat, a good job does not build wealth. A good job just pays the bills.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
I want the kids to know, okay, even if I got this good job, I still understand I'm going to create a budget. I'm going to pay myself first. I'm going to invest this money into something that's going to grow over time, versus I get paid and I'm buying liabilities.
Right. Facts.
I'm broke.
No, that is it. That's the game, right? So like we talk like the money making quadrant, right? It's only, they say it's only four ways to make money. And then I really try to help people find where they are on that quadrant, right? So you're going to use your time for money. You can be self-employed. You're still using your time for money. You can be a business owner. Then you use other people's time for money. And then you can be an investor and use money for money. And you got to find your way on that quadrant. And it's easy to transition from, you know, using your time to make money, because now you have money, to skip all the way to making your money make money. And that's kind of really what you're trying to set people out to do, man. So you have another book though, and I thought, and I'm going to buy it right after this. The lessons that I learned from my father and my brother book. I dedicated my book to my father. He taught me everything that I'm gonna say everything. He taught me some really great basic money management skills, but I did learn one thing from him that did hinder me for a very long time, and that was you know, putting your money in a mattress. He used to always do that. He was, you know, old country Alabama guy, moved up to Detroit, had me and my sister, and he was just old school. And then, you know, as I went on and I learned, hey, that money in a mattress is worth less than it was when I put it there.
Right.
That kind of changed the game. But what are some of the lessons that you have in that book from my father and my brother?
Well, that book I wrote the day I started writing that book, the day after I defended my dissertation. And so my brother, my big brother, he passed away in 2017, and I wrote the book in 2019. And so one of the things I always wanted to do was pay tribute to my father. You know, I had an old school dad as well. He had a military background, and he just always had those quotes. And so the book is based upon 5 quotes from my dad and my brother. And the ones from my dad were, one of the quotes is, I don't give a damn if you're a shit shoveler. You be the best goddamn shit shoveler there is. And
I
so,
love
you
it.
know, when you're like 7, 8, and you just hear that, it was like, okay, no matter what the job is, I gotta be good at what I do.
Period.
Period. Like, there's no excuses. If that's your job, shoveling shit, then you be the best at it.
Right. I'm
And
the
I
king of
carried
this
that as
mountain.
an educator, that when I walk into that classroom, I used to have a saying, I'm going to be the best 6th grade teacher you ever have. Now, you should only have one, but even in this scenario, I'm going to be the best. Another one was, you know, excuses are like assholes. Everybody has one.
Everybody got
So
one.
I don't make excuses. Whatever is I'm supposed to do, I do it. If I make a mistake, I got to own it. You know, it's not on somebody else, it's all on me. And then the last one, which we all know or have heard, money doesn't grow on trees. And so the last chapter in the book is related to finance. So each of the quotes is related to a life skill, and money doesn't grow on trees is the financial part. And so I talk about different lessons that he was saying, again, just like your dad, save your money, son, save your money, son. And again, you realize later that I should be, the word is invest.
Yes.
You save your money
Invest.
for emergencies, you invest your money for wealth.
Absolutely.
And so my father, he had this one, and Brother Rob, I did not do it. I did not do it. But my father, the best financial advice he gave me, he said, when you get married, live off of one salary for 5 years. Live off of one salary for 5 years. And it was always in my mind, when I get married, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Now, I can't make any excuses again. But when I married my wife, she had a younger brother and sister that she was raising. So it was really tight. It would have been super tight.
Yeah.
You know, because she had her younger siblings that she was raising. But still, I think we could have found a way to make it work. But that's one of the best pieces of advice that he ever gave me, that I look back and say, that's the one I should have followed.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, oh man, that like hurt my soul, because that was really our game plan. Like initially, I got married 12 years ago to my beautiful wife, Khalesia. We both were in the military at the same time, so we're dual military. She had 2 young boys, and she was doing just fine without me. And that should have been the moment where we should have just lived off of one salary. If we would have
Yeah,
did that, where we're at now, because now we have 8 beautiful children. We homeschool every single one of them. So definitely math is money is going to be one of the curriculums in homeschool this year for sure. But man, that's a game changer. That, and that's a gem, man. I'm gonna borrow that from you, brother. Like, that is something to preach for sure, man.
it is. It is because even in the book, I talk about how in 5 years we could have had $60,000 easy. You
Yeah,
know, and again, you got that seed money now. Let's buy a car cash. Let's put down 20+% on a new house. Let's buy a couple of properties. You know, that could have really started that investing mindset 20 years ago
right.
versus 20 years later.
Right. And then even looking at that, looking at 20 years of compounding interest, and even if you started with $1 million, that $60, that 60K probably would at least supersede, try to do the math, probably about, if I started right now with 300K, I probably wouldn't be able to surpass what you would have done 20 years ago with 60K.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the power of compounding interest, and that's the importance of getting started as soon as possible. The whole purpose of, using your life to your advantage, right? Because some of us have gifts and some of us don't, right? But being able to go into a relationship and only be able to live off of one salary instead of figuring out the way to blow the money. You got to look at that as a gift. All right, hey baby, we got this. Some people just got it. We've got this house paid for, or we got low mortgage, we got 2 incomes. Let's make it happen. So I mean, being able to teach people, not just of our culture, but people who need that information, these type of gems is crucial, man. So you got money, with Math is Money, the online course. It looks like it's coming out soon. Like, what does that look like, and what do you got in the works for us, man?
What I have in the works for it is basically just presenting the lessons online that I do in person. And so again, lesson one, we talk about assets over liabilities. Lesson two is about starting a business. I ask the kids, how much money do you need to start a business? Most times kids will say $1,000, $10,000, you need a lot of money. I say, well, is it possible to start a business with $0? No, Dr. Rischer, no. I said, well, I did 2 years ago. How did you do that? I walked into an to a doctor's office. I was at my chiropractor's office. I saw her office. I was like, ooh, this is not clean. She called me back. I said, who cleans your office? She said, nobody right now. I said, well, I got a cleaning business. She's like, oh yeah. I said, yeah. Now, did I have a cleaning business? Absolutely not. But 20 minutes later, I walked out that joint with a cleaning business,
Right,
you know?
absolutely.
And I say to the kids, I say, now, what was that? Like, how did I do that? And it's opportunity.
Mm,
An opportunity presented itself, you got to jump on it. And again, that's $0. Guess what? I got cleaning supplies at home. I got a vacuum at the house. I got all that I need. All I got to do is write up an invoice and send it in, and we good.
right.
I put my kids on payroll. Hey, and the advantages, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about that. But you put your kids on payroll,
Hmm.
and you pay them a little salary that can. Like, I got teams, so hey, I'm gonna give you this $400. Well, I'm gonna pay you $400. You buy your own groceries.
Right.
You buy your own school supplies. That's a tax deduction on my business, and you're not paying taxes on that money. So all of these things that, again, I've learned later in my life, and I'm trying to make sure that the kids that I'm teaching now or that I can reach and touch, that it by the time you're 18,
Right.
you are on the path to building wealth.
Right. And so, hey, let me ask you, and I believe that like you're so passionate about sharing this knowledge. Where does that passion come from?
Man, I don't give a damn if you're a shit shoveler. You be the best goddamn shit shoveler there is. That's exactly where it comes from. Like it's that quote right there.
Yeah, man, that's
And
deep.
I enjoy teaching. The funny thing is I ran into the first year and a half of my business, it was just great, like great. And I hit a health issue and it set me back and I couldn't talk for about 6 7 months and my business had stalled and I had to go through my savings and everything. So once I got to a point where I could talk a little bit better, I said, man, I had thought I had retired from education
Right.
because education had become, it was about data. And when I got into education, it was all about relationships,
Mm.
that was the thing. And so now it's really about data. You know, we're looking at data. We're not even looking at the kid's name. We're just like, they're proficient, they're underperforming, but we're like, who's the kid? What's the background story? And that bothered me a lot. And so I ended up getting back into the classroom and I'm teaching history and I'm loving it. I am loving teaching history because it's giving me a different context to understand how the world has evolved,
Yeah.
going back to the Spanish explorers, the Italian Renaissance, and you can apply a lot of those things to today because what you learn or what you realize is this whole world is all about accumulating power and wealth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the 3 G's: God, gold, and glory. That's what the explorers were looking for when they were trying to get to India and ended up in the Americas or parts of Central America.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about trying to increase their power. And we're talking about in the 1400s, the 1500s, 1600s. And guess what? We're at 2023 and like this whole
And you
power
still see the
construct,
same thing.
it still exists.
Mm-hmm.
So it's giving me this historical context that now I can add to my curriculum that allows it to be richer. And again, it's trying to make that connection with all the things that you learn in school. It is applied to earning money, to building wealth.
Nah, man, it's just nothing but gems. And I love having guests on like you because when I learn things. And I mean, if you see always you'll see me taking notes, or I might have you on an extra recorder. I might have to watch this 2 or 3 times. But I really appreciate all of the information that you've been sharing with us, man. So let me ask you this piece, like of all of the works that you have, of all of your books and curriculums that you've authored, which one is the most near and dear to your heart?
Man, that's easy. That's my workbook because that's the bread and butter. And I got to tell you a story. So when I got my first contract, and initially I was working out of my lessons that I learned from my father and brother book.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew what I wanted to teach, but I was still trying to figure out things. So I had this contract in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I'm working at this high school. And Rob, I tell you, I had like 2 worksheets, just copies of paper.
Yeah.
This is like I started like September. By I got a copy right here. By December, I had a workbook of
Of
like
curriculum.
40 pages. Now again, I'm an educator, so I've always created my own worksheets, my own activities. And what I understood is like you got the knowledge and the expertise to create something like this.
Yeah.
You know what to do.
Yeah.
So I just put 2 and 2 together and made 4. And so by the end of December, it was like, okay, I got this workbook. And then I was always tweaking it. I was teaching, and I'm like, okay, I need to add this. Let me go back. I type it, I upload it on Lulu or
Mm-hmm.
KDP. I upload it, make some more copies. I get a next group. All right, let me try this out. Boom, until I could get it right. And I would just spent like the whole semester just tweaking it and making it right to where it was just flowing. And one of the things, the lessons that I've learned in business, and I'm gonna tie this back to a little Nipsey Hustle, is that, man, this is a marathon, right?
Yeah.
Because when you think it's a sprint means it's gonna stop,
Right.
right? But that marathon is like it keeps going. And
Mm-hmm.
what you realize that when you have a business, whether it's the scaling part of it or just making your product better or offering something new, like you got to be aware of what's working and what's not. See, I actually started with the t-shirt business. I was like all gun ho. But then I realized, man, that's just a fad that's just short lived. Like you're not going
Right.
to build a lot of wealth with t-shirts, you
Right.
know. But what I also found was this is where my passion, this is where the heart was. Like I want to teach the kids this. I love teaching, but I want our kids, our community to know, like if you don't have the basketball skills, or even if you do and you don't make it to the league, you have the foundation to say, I still know how to build wealth.
Right.
And it's not because I still believe that the 9 to 5 can serve a purpose at least for about 10 years. But after those 10 years, you should really be thinking, hey, how can I start my own business by the age of 28, by the age of 30?
Yeah. So like, let me ask you this though, because you've seen kind of the scale of how um, the education system works, and then how you have to plug in this. And I don't want to call it extra information, but it is necessary information to the kids. Like, how hard do you believe it is to um, uneducate yourself from the system after you've been in it so long?
Okay, ask me the question one more time because it broke up a little bit.
So yeah, and I'm gonna probably rephrase it though, right? So how do you, and I want to say uneducate yourself from the education system? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Because it changed. Like I say, when initially it was all about relationships, and then it changed to, we it actually changed, I would say, in 2002 when George Bush signed the No Child Left Behind.
Mm,
The thing is, it's kind of like the Board of Education. When the Board of Education ruling came, schools across America still did not integrate, right?
right,
It still took like 7 to 10 years for blacks and whites to go to school together.
right,
So when No Child Left Behind and came out around 2002-ish, it still took like years for that transition for what we are experiencing now to really take hold. And then when Obama came, you thought it was supposed to be better with Race to the Top, but it wasn't. And so even for myself, it was I found myself fighting against the system because kids are coming to school just to take a test in April,
right,
right?
right,
So we're teaching all of this just so that they can take a test in April. And then what happens after April? Well, the kids in their mind, because I'm going through it now, they're like, school is over. Like, no, you still got to learn. And so it definitely puts me in a tough position because I'm teaching these standards, but I have to do a better job of making sure that I'm tying these standards to something that they can relate to. I have to make sure that it makes sense, makes meaning to them, whether it's them being a black person, and we're about to get into the establishment of the 13 colonies, or they are Hispanic and we're talking about, England, those individuals from Spain conquering the Incas and the Mayans.
right,
That was just straight destruction,
right,
what they did. And so you're looking at these Hispanic students, you're like, do you realize a large part of your culture was decimated because of this greed and this desire for all of this power? And I recently took a trip to Mexico, Cancun, and we went to see some Mayan ruins. And my tour guide, he was of Aztec heritage. And the craziest thing that he told me is like, hey, when you get back, I want you to watch Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I was like, okay. I go back and I watch it. There's a 10-minute clip where Namor, he
Mhm.
talks about the destruction of the Mayan culture of the Spanish armies and leaders. Like it's at the 1 hour, 1 minute mark to about 1 hour, 12 minutes.
Yeah, I got to go back and
Beautifully
watch it.
done.
Mm. I got to go back and watch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so again, when I showed it, I was keen to target the Hispanic students to understand like this is your history. Your history was in this movie. And so that helped me realize that there's a lot of truths in this movie,
Yeah.
although it's about a superhero. And at the end of the movie, I can't remember who says it, but somebody says Africa is the most powerful country in the world. After I see the historical context of the Mayan civilization, and I'm like, yo, that's true. What do you think my mind thinks when I hear that?
Right. Bam. That's true.
Bam. At the end of
True.
the movie, like Africa is the most powerful country in the world.
Yeah, that man, I gotta go back and watch it now.
Yep.
And it's life lessons like that, man, and that really can change the trajectory of somebody's mind because when you like understand your greatness, it can propel you to so many different levels, especially when you know and understand your history. And I think that was one of the biggest things. So when I was so I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and I went to a school. It's actually called Maya Imhotep Technical Academy, right? So
Okay.
I went to Imhotep Technical Academy, and they teach the history, and one of the biggest things that they teach about Black history is that it did not start because when you get into most curriculums, when you start actually learning about Black people, it starts at slavery, and then you have to relearn that Black history didn't start as slavery. Like there was a lot of history, and um, I think growing up with that and knowing who I am and knowing my culture and background, and I would say the same thing for the Aztecs and the Mayans, knowing your roots will really propel you to continue to be great, and knowing the blood that flows through you. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned about the Black History start time, because one of the things I was happy to see with the standards is that the kids are now learning about Mansa Musa.
No, nice.
Yeah. And so when I came in, one of the questions that I ask in my curriculum, who's the wealthiest person to have ever lived? And of course, most kids will say Jeff Bezos, Bill
Bill
Gates,
Gates,
or
yeah.
Elon Musk. And I
Mm,
say, listen to the question: have ever lived? Like, what do you mean? It's not one of them. Like, no, it's Mansa Musa. And when I say that and I describe and tell a little bit about his history, I'm like, what does he look like? He looks like you and me.
mm,
So that right there tells you that we come from wealth.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
so we can accomplish it.
Yeah, and I think I was reading a story about Mansa Musa and really understanding not only the wealth but the generosity that he had. But that story allowed me to really understand economics as well. So a part of the story talks about him going to Egypt and then leaving gold for all of the people, and he left so much gold that basically bankrupt the system, and
Yes.
that teaches you how economics works, because when everybody on the bottom has enough, there ain't enough workers, and there ain't enough workers, ain't enough stuff getting done. So you have to understand that, yeah, these things have to exist, but where is it that you want to be on that totem pole when it comes to
Yeah.
economics, man? But I mean, that beautiful story, man. Hey, I want to like start to get wrapping up this episode. I really appreciate you for coming on. First things first, man. So before we get out of here, what are some of your socials, your tags? How can people get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me by emailing me at mentor@mathismoney.net. Again, that's mentor, mentor, at mathismoney.net. You can follow me on social media at mathismoney888. But the best way to get in contact with me is by email. And then also check out my website, www.matthewsmoney.net.
That's awesome, man. And so we covered a lot of the your works, the books you authored, your curriculum. What are some of the other services that you offer?
It's pretty much teaching the curriculum for financial literacy, financial education. One of the things I didn't get to elaborate on, so I teach the kids about the difference between assets, liabilities, how to budget, how to start a business, how to use a fourplex to build wealth. And also I teach the students about stocks, how to read the stock charts, going through that process. There's a couple of activities, fun activities that I do in terms of investing in your stocks and then, seeing what the price is of those stocks years prior. Do you have earnings or did you suffer losses? So it's really trying to put the kids in as close of a scenario as an adult as possible for them to understand how to build wealth.
Man, I love it, brother. Definitely, we got to do this again. I'm working on the platform to start doing the live streams for these, and so people can watch the next episodes live. But I really appreciate you for coming on, man. Thanks for joining me. I know it's kind of a short notice. We actually we met at a African American book festival, and it was real quick. We exchanged numbers, and then again, like he said, folks, I shot him an email. And he hit me right back and jumped on the calendar. And so if you ever do anything like this, I owe you one. And then I do want to talk to you offline because I think there's another opportunity for your works. But again, man, really, really appreciate you for coming on, brother.
I appreciate you inviting me. I love to get my message out and just talk to our community about building wealth.
Thank you. And so on the show, we always say winners win, and we win when you win. And we want to thank you for being a winner, brother.
One love.
All right. And we out. Boom.